Yeah. It seemed like just looking at your schedule from last year, it seemed like dual meets were a big point of emphasis. I don't remember the exact record, but you guys had a winning record, I believe. It looked pretty solid. How does the dual meet kind of fit into the way that your team measures its success every year?
Yeah, duels are exciting. They're a premier event, and we certainly want to promote it and boost home attendance. And we also have a side goal of having more fans than the team that we're wrestling. So our fans do travel well, and it's something that is a big priority for us. My first year, we were 2-10 as a dual meet record, and then 2 years ago we were 5-7, and then this past year we were 8-6. So it's not where we want to be, but it's definitely an improvement, and that's sort of what we're looking for.
Improvement is like it sounds like kind of the name of the game for you. I mean, we saw that you published a book this year,
Yeah.
this has to be a weird time to publish a book, but the kind of the theme of the book is improvement, right? So how is that part of your kind of core philosophy of coaching?
Well, I think no matter what school you're at, you're always looking for improvement. I mean, you look at Penn State, obviously, winning 8 out of the 9. Well, I guess last year's an odd year, but
Yeah.
before that, 8 out of the last 9 national titles, and they don't always have the number one recruiting class in the country. They do a phenomenal job at developing the wrestlers, and in essence, they're improving. And so, on a smaller scale for right now, we were probably the last team in the country. 79 out of 79 when we started, and that's been the philosophy since I started, is that if we all improve, including myself, then great things can happen. And it's something that I feel like you can never really get burned out of something if you're seeing progress, and that's really resonated well with the student athletes on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to look at like just that dual meet record you talked about, like 2-10, and then just a couple years later, winning record 8-6. That's like kind of a large byproduct of improvement. But I'm sure you're looking for smaller benchmarks along the way, especially when you're managing a team of like 50 guys. What are some of the things that you kind of look for, or some of the ways that you measure the improvement that's happening between those end of the year records?
Sure. I look for people that love wrestling and that were healthy coming out of high school. I think that's really important. And wrestling's a tough sport, but if you can find people that love wrestling, you're going to see that improvement. I just see so many times where these kids have a little chip on their shoulder because maybe they didn't accomplish what they wanted to in high school, but they just outwork their competition. And it's just amazing to see how you get what you earn in this sport, because you basically are competing every single day. Sometimes the media outlet will ask for my projected lineup, and I'll give them a list of my roster, and I don't think they're particularly happy with that. But the nice thing, every day it can change. They want set lineup, but the rate is ever changing. You know, Especially with wrestle offs coming up, you don't know. I don't care if it's Sacred Heart or any other school. You don't know the lineup until we actually wrestle, which is very cool. Especially this year, it's gonna be a judgment day when these teams start competing, because teams are going to be better than they were, the same, and some of them are going to be worse depending on what people did in the past 10 months here.
Man, that's really interesting. I remember kind of being on being in a team and a roster that was similar, where like the starters could kind of change from week to week, and it created a sense of competition in the room. When you're thinking about like the kind of normal cadence of a season, how soon before the conference tournament do you usually kind of finalize who your starting lineup's going to be and who your roster's going to be? Is even that kind of up until the last moment, or do you try to finalize that a few weeks out?
Yeah, historically, we've done 3 wrestle offs, one in the beginning of the year, one right after the new year, and then one for the conference tournament. That will probably be altered as time goes on and our team develops. But the nice thing that I believe is it's fair. And I played team sports before, and I understand that sometimes it can be a coach's decision, and I think in some ways that's good, but in some ways that has some negative effects too. I mean, we're very fortunate with wrestle offs. You kind of wash your hands of it as a coach and say, let the best man win. So We currently do 3 wrestle-offs on a traditional year. This year we'll do 2, but moving forward, that it's to be evaluated every year, I guess.
With those wrestle offs, is it you're wrestling off for the next, like, say we're the same weight and I beat him in the first 2 wrestle offs, but he beats me before conference. Does he get to go to conference?
Yeah, it's. I mean, there are people on a given year, and it's something that you really have to make sure that you are rewarding people that have been wrestled all year. And so, if you've won the first 2, you're not going to have to do that 3rd wrestle off.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, thinking about improvement and how the athletes are doing that. I mean, it looks also like you have been trying to build onto the program, not just in terms of roster size, but one of the big things is you've added a women's team, and you guys are one of the few Division I programs that's taken that step already. I think a lot more are going to follow suit. What went into that, and talk about kind of the status of the women's program at Sacred Heart?
Absolutely, yeah, that's been a game changer for really the whole sport, and in particular women's wrestling. The amount of people that have reached out to me and that have been notified about how to start a program has been phenomenal. So we really feel good. We are the Sacred Heart Pioneers, and we feel like we're pioneering the way for a lot of other programs to have equality. I have 4 sisters myself, and obviously I want to see them have the same opportunities that my 2 brothers and I had. And whether it be wrestling or any other sport, we just feel so fortunate that we became the 2nd Division I school in the country to add women's wrestling as a varsity sport.
So what's that program look like right now? What's your roster look like, and facilities and schedule, and how is that? I mean, hopefully, one day we're talking about women's NCAA championships, Division I. We're all doing that, but we're not there yet. So what does it look like for you guys right now?
Yeah, we made the announcement on September 21st, and so right now we are just getting as many student athletes from across the country that we can that are going to be joining the program next year. And it's exciting because they'll start right alongside the men's team. In fact, we're going to have a little bit of a double duel in conjunction with each other and underneath the lights next year at home. And I think it's going to be a historic event. And so we're really excited to provide that. And I mentioned earlier, depending on the year, we have either the biggest or second biggest roster in the country. I'd say when I started, we had 16 people, student athletes. And so we want to be able to do the same thing. We want to grow the women's program, not only here, but we want to initiate it within the IWA and across the country as well.
So, right now you're just trying to get as many women that want to come and be on the team. When it comes around time for the team to be there, are you going to coach? Are they going to have resources to hire a separate coach or all that, right? I'm sure you share a wrestling room, and I would assume split up practice times, but as far as budgets and coaches and...
Yeah. Right now I'm doing both, but we have the job open. And talking to a lot of candidates, they want to wait until this year's over to accept the position. We have a ton of interest. It would blow your mind the amount of interest that we have for that position. And so I will be overseeing the program, but I will remain the head men's coach. And the next candidate will start sometime after the season, most likely late March or early April. So we're excited to some of the amazing. Well, I guess we'll announce the final candidate and who it is, but it's awesome to see the interest of women's wrestling across the country. About 45 people are in the running right now for the coach. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I guess to stick with the women's wrestling theme, I'm sure you heard Tamara Mensah-Stock and Adeline Gray are throwing down on January 9th. Your thoughts on that particular match and maybe any of the other ones going on that day?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you guys do such a good job promoting the world champion versus world champion and then world champion versus world champion. Yeah. This event, among many others that you guys do as an organization, is phenomenal. And we have so much respect for you, both of you. And Bader, I think you're the most likable person in all of college wrestling, and maybe I should say all of wrestling. What you've done over the years is remarkable, and I'm sure Bray's learning a lot from you, and we all kind of from afar have much admiration for you. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So, one of the I agree. By the way, I'm learning a lot from this guy. One of the things that I always think is cool when I look at women's wrestling schedules is like how the college schedule is very often integrated into a USA Wrestling calendar, and USA Wrestling events that are happening during the year, just they're built in, and it kind of it makes me wonder if there's ever long term a time where men's wrestling is going to watch women's wrestling compete in freestyle. Is there ever, a time where we'll start to see pressure for men's wrestling to change? I don't know if you have an answer to that question, but I'm curious how you think about balancing not just a men's and women's schedule, but a completely freestyle schedule and a completely folk style schedule.
Yeah, and I think that's a great debate, and a lot of people have varying opinions on it. For both sides, keeping the way it is, making it all freestyle. The women have done a tremendous job showing that it can be done. And it is exciting to see all these regional training centers that are up. And we actually are starting one in April of this year. And awesome. I'm on my 4th year here. It feels like the right timing to start one. And, freestyle's here and it's here to stay. And we can't ignore that it's a big part of what we're doing, and we're excited to do it in, I would say, maybe an Olympic year. I know, obviously, with everything that happened, but in essence, it's an Olympic year, and so it should create a lot of excitement, and where we're located, it should gain a lot of interest as well.
Yeah.
Man, I hate to say it, but kill freestyle, folk style. I love folk style wrestling so much, right? And that's what I grew up doing, and that's what I know better than I know freestyle, but I'm even thinking now, like, you run the tournaments together. You have the refs, they're all set up. It's like a men's tournament. You can't do that with college right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many of these women's.
You could, but you need different refs, and it's just.
Some of these women's schedules, it's like, it's awesome. It's like the schedule, it's like, you look at the schedule, it's on the school website, and it's not like this strictly defined season a lot of times. It's like, it's, the whole year round USA Wrestling events. You send your junior eligible athletes to juniors, your older ones to U23s. You do the whole thing. Hopefully it's world championships. I mean, it's, and the schools can kind of put some of their marketing efforts behind it. I don't know. I think it's super cool if we imagine not just focusing all of the resources of like the athletes on that freestyle goal, but also the resources of these universities on getting people excited about those events. I think it'd be great if it happened long term.
I could see it happening in our lifetime. I don't think anytime soon, but
yeah. Well, you guys, one of the other unique things about Sacred Heart that, we were texting about beforehand is, your athletic director, Bobby Valentine, he comes from a pretty unique background compared to a lot of ADs. I mean, he professional baseball player, was a manager for years and years.
Snuck back into a game once after he got kicked out. Put on like a costume. Yeah, thanks.
But what's the leadership like from Bobby V, and what's it like working alongside a guy like that every day?
It's phenomenal, and they've named a rec center in his namesake on campus, and he's a phenomenal leader. And we call him a manager in baseball, but he's essentially a coach. And so he's I have lunch with him almost every day, and lunch or coffee, and we share so many ideas. And one of the things he mentioned to me is, I want more people to ask me questions. I mean, he's managed in the World Series. He was a professional athlete himself, as you said. And so he has a tremendous wealth of knowledge that I've certainly picked his brain. I mean, it's completely different sports, but a lot of the concepts are the same. And he's at every single one of our matches, as well as the president of the university, the vice president, Bobby's AD, he's there, and my sport administrator. There's a tremendous amount of support here, which I think is essential for not just here, but for all of college athletics, especially in wrestling. Sometimes you go to these places and the president or AD's never been to a match. I sometimes worry that when Bobby's at a match that he's going to be arguing with the ref. He's that much into it, and he loves it. Maybe he gets kicked out one day. Fitting as Bader alluded to earlier.
He sounds like Mark Cuban, like just so involved.
Very much involved. But I wouldn't really want it any other way. I mean, you can't make up a story like this. And I understand Sacred Heart doesn't have the name that a lot of the schools do, but when you look at some of the things that are happening here, I mean, the school used to be a high school in 1963, and now almost has 10,000 students.
How does that happen?
So they basically changed from a university to Division II, won a national championship in basketball, and then they became Division I, and we are the 11th largest Division I program as far as sports offered. Currently nationally. So it's grown, and it's grown in a tremendous way. And you mentioned adding women's wrestling, but we are adding at a time when a lot of programs are dropping.
Yeah.
And I think that shows the level of commitment. Now, do we have everything that every other school has? Not yet, but we're progressing to that point. And I think the administration trusts me, and we'll get to that point. But it just really resonates when I see a school that's adding programs. And we're at 34 programs now. In a time when either some are dropping or some are worried, we're taking the opposite approach, and we're so excited to be able to not only add a sport but add a great sport like women's wrestling.
Man, you think about a guy like Bobby V, and I mean, you work in Major League Baseball. The stakes are so high, both as an athlete and as a manager. It's like you win or you're done, right?
Yeah.
And you think about that element of his past, and then also that he was a broadcaster, right? He worked with ESPN. He's done that kind of stuff. So his perspective on sports, I think, is probably different than a lot of people in the wrestling community. What is that? What kind of like expectations does he have for the program in terms of success and growth and all those things?
He expects a lot, and I want that. And I told him to keep me to a high standard because we expect a lot as well. I think as a coach, we'll always expect more than anyone else. But part of that expecting, he's provided a lot of resources for us, as well as my direct supervisor, Mike Castelli, and in the sense that they want to see us win. And they realize, I mentioned our location earlier, but we can get to New Jersey within an hour, PA, within a couple hours, Long Island within an hour and a half. I mean, it's funny. I used to joke if I were to start a program, I wouldn't really if I could put a tack on a map and where I would want to start it, it wouldn't be far of where we are currently located. And ironically enough, we did start a program. And so, our administrations, it all kind of came into fruition, but our administration, starting from the top with Bobby V has been phenomenal. And beyond that, I think what a lot of coaches don't realize is we have to have it even beyond our athletic director. So Jim Barcanero, our vice president of student affairs and the athletics here, and then Dr. Patillo, our president, are all on board, and they come to almost every single one of our matches. And that, I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but that is so important when we're trying to grow and improve, because we're probably almost at the middle of the pack right now, but that's not where we want to be. And I think more people are learning about us, but it's our responsibility to get to that next level. And with the support of our administration, it certainly helps.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so cool to hear about that growth and just the expectations, and I'm sure the success is I mean, you've already seen in the dual results, right? It's coming. And so it's exciting to think about where you guys are heading in the next few years. And I kind of want to back up though a little bit. You're no stranger to high expectations, just even thinking about the family you grew up in. Your dad was a national championship coach at a Division III school. Your brother Mitch was an NCAA champion. Your other brother, I think, was a national prep champion, right? You grew up in a family that's pretty storied in wrestling. What was it like for you getting into wrestling as a kid and just kind of, growing up in a family like that?
It was awesome. I mean, I still lean on each and every one of them. Although it's a little bit funny. I grew up in upstate New York, very right on the Canadian border in northern New York, and
Okay.
I actually played hockey up until seventh grade, and then in New York, as you guys probably know, because some of these guys are winning 4 or 5 state titles, but you have to make a decision because in seventh grade you can wrestle or play hockey varsity, and so I had to make a decision. It was a very big decision because obviously we come from a wrestling family. Um, the main sport in town. There's 2 Division I programs, one in my hometown and one St. Lawrence University. 10 minutes away, Clarkson, both Division I hockey programs. So it was most people played hockey there, and I made the decision to follow in the footsteps of my brother and my dad as well. So yeah, my dad won a national championship in 1988 as a Division III coach, which was an amazing accomplishment. And then my older brother Mitch won high school nationals in '93 and then NCAA's in '98. And he's been a guest on the show here. He got a first period tech fall on the national final. So even to this day, he's still doing more clinics than anyone I know, which is hard to believe because he's not coaching for a living. And then my little brother did has a little unique story where he went to academy for his senior year of high school, which in the past it was a lot of people would finish their high school and then do a PG year or just go to prep school for all 4 years. But he placed in New York twice and wanted to find a place that would get some notoriety and attention, and so he went there and won prep nationals. And then me and my 2 brothers, we all went to Ohio State. So
Nice.
It was pretty cool ending the story. Yeah.
How old were you in 1988 when your dad coached that national championship team?
I was 8 years old, and I still remember to this day when he came home and brought that national championship trophy, put it on the kitchen table, and it just resonated with me. And then earlier, I had gone to the national championship game for NCAA hockey. St. Lawrence lost to Lake Superior State in 1998 as well. So from an early age, success has been around me, and it was just a matter of trying to replicate that. And I think for a lot of people, that's sometimes hard because they don't have someone that, I was fortunate to have an older brother or father who had done that, but some people don't know how great they can become because they've never really been exposed to that. And so here I am 8 years old seeing these national championship trophies or games, and it kind of just shaped the way, like, I can do anything even though I didn't win a national championship myself, it's something that, I've been, like I said, around for most of my life.
Your brother was scrambled legs, right? He was a scrambler, and like you said, first period tech fall in the NCAA finals. What was your style like, and did you have any of this scramble? I mean, this is years before Askren was doing it.
Yeah, so I was part of that scrambled legs video. My scrambling's a little bit different that I believe, and contrary to what maybe a lot of people believe, but I try not to go to my hip when I wrestle. And I think a lot of times people believe that scrambling is all about going to your hip and rolling around. And, but we basically, the mantra of the video is turning from funk to fundamentals. And so we put a science behind scrambling. Like you said, we were just before, well, Askren was around the same time as me, but yeah, we were kind of pioneers in that aspect as well, because now, as we see, scrambling is very mainstream. But to describe the way I wrestle and in turn the way I coach is, well, one, I don't coach directly on how I wrestle. I think a lot of coaches make that mistake, but I believe that each and every position is equally important. Obviously, it's great to be tremendous on top like Mitch, but I've seen just as many people that can't get out from bottom, and that can be not only frustrating for the wrestler out there, but the teammates that have to go out next. I mean, we talked about baseball earlier, but it's a lot easier to follow one of your teammates after they come off the mat with a pin and get a couple of those in a row. So I kind of rounding out, I want to, in theory, I want to teach all 3 positions equally and spend the same amount of time with them.
Sure. Man, so you guys, you're in upstate New York. You're up there almost by the Canadian border. What was the recruiting process like for you going from New York, from upstate New York to Ohio State? And obviously, Mitch was already there, but were you looking at a whole bunch of programs, and what was ultimately the kind of the recruiting process that led you to Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to follow my brother there. I mean, we can't explain enough how small of a town that we grew up in, and at the time,
Stoplight?
it's Ohio State. I'm sorry.
Do you have a stoplight?
Yeah,
Couple
one.
stop-
No,
oh.
it's not extreme. I mean, there is the university in town and everything, but there's about 6,000 people in my
Very small.
hometown. But it's it was, and then at the time, Ohio State was the biggest school in the country. So going from matches where there really wasn't many people to the biggest school in the country was definitely something that was eye opening. But again, I had been to campus so many times. I actually, I looked at a lot of schools, but I thought Penn State was a good fit just based on where it's similar as much as a Big Ten can be, a Big Ten school can be. And so it's something that I looked into. But I guess the message was clear that, I could have gone to a couple different places, and it was nothing because anything I accomplished, but when your brother wins an NCAA title, a lot of doors are open for you that maybe aren't open for other people. So, I just didn't want to have regret. And I think that's something that, we'll always remember that for 15 straight years, there was a Clark brother that was at Ohio State. And, because we all redshirted and did 5 years. And so that's something that I'll cherish forever. And in turn, I have a tremendous amount of friends that went to school there just because of my brothers, and so I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And again, it could have been a lot of schools, but it's more of something that I wanted to make sure that on top of going to Ohio State, I had the opportunity to be coached by my brother too, which was pretty cool.
And your brother won an NCAA title, and you sound maybe a little more humble than you should be, because you had your own fair share of success, right? You were an All-American. Talk about your career at Ohio State, and what it was like, kind of achieving that All-American honor.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I'm very thankful for my coaches and my teammates. I wasn't a national champ, but I two-time All-American. Was in the Big Ten finals twice. And, right now I have third most wins and takedowns there, even to this day. They don't wrestle the matches that we did, so it's a little misleading. But it was just a situation where I was, we go back to improvement. I was improving at a great rate. But if you look back, and Tyron Lewis and Troy Letters and Pritzloff and Heskett and you couldn't. They were better than me. And it was just something. Robbie Wall, I had beat him once, but as a whole, these are just tremendous 4-time All-Americans, most of them that were, so I was 5th and 6th, and it was just a credit to them on how good they were, essentially. And I just ran out of time. I mean, every year it got better in college, but I just ran out of time. I often wonder if I had another 2 years, if I could win that title. But, it's sort of a good lesson for anyone that I coach or anyone that I talk to, is that you have to make sure that you're improving at a faster rate, because essentially you can run out of time. And, I felt like I did the best I could, but, sometimes, and I apologize to my college coach for not winning a title after my brother did, but, I don't really have a lot of regrets in the effort that I gave.
Sure.
You were talking to us before we started the show about how, when college wrestlers get done, there's this decision to make. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to stick around the sport? Are you going to coach? Are you going to get into kind of the normal working world? And you've gone with the coaching route, right? And you've kind of done, I think, what a lot of people do, which is assistant here, there, a few different places, and then into a head coaching job. What went into your decision to stick around wrestling and coach? And then what was your path between Ohio State and now Sacred Heart?
Yeah, I think it's a decision that every coach has to make, because it's a huge commitment to be a coach, and you have to pay your dues. A lot of time coaches will be an assistant for a while, and then they can't really garner that head coaching job, and they end up looking into another sales or something else because they see peers that are in a different situation that aren't working nights and weekends and kind of have a different life. I mean, my brother now kind of has the best of both worlds. He has 3 kids and is home a lot, but he's also doing a lot of camps around the country. So I have a philosophy that I think whether you decide to coach or not, you'll always be, as a wrestler, you'll always be involved with wrestling, whether you're a donor, whether you're going to the matches. It's in our blood. And so if you can find that balance, it's tremendous. But I've been a volunteer coach at Lehigh, a second assistant at Stanford, head assistant at Brown University, and now a head coach. So I understand, and it's funny because a lot of companies will start someone at the bottom, and here you're going to learn your profession here from the bottom and then kind of working your way up. So there's still things that I do that, whether it be mopping the mats or whatever, that maybe someone lower on the totem pole would do. But I don't think any coach is above that once they've done that themselves.
Not at all. They all mop mats, roll them, do whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I heard from David, or I read somewhere, you were doing like a 2-hour commute, like each way every day. That's 4 hours in the car. That's all the, that's, when was this? Where was this? Was it like 100 miles or was it like 40 miles in traffic? 30, whatever.
Yeah, it's 122 miles each way, and I do it to this day, every single day.
What?
And I love it. Yep. I talked about being on year 4 of coaching here, and it's like so many other things that it might seem like a burden for a lot of people, but it's really just been tremendous. A lot of thinking, a lot of planning that goes on there, and it's definitely unique. But like I said, I was an assistant at Brown University, and I moved there in 2007, and I'm approaching 14 years of living there, and so it's great, and it's definitely unique. So even without working an hour, I've done 4 hours with there and back.
Yeah.
So I think that's true for it's a good lesson for anyone, that don't confuse work with quality work. And so one of the things that I've had to main focus on, you might be feeling like, oh man, I feel like I'm putting in a lot of work or whatever, but really you can't factor in the time that you don't get credit for that, the commute. And so I end up just burning the candle on both ends, just because I want to make sure that I have no regrets. And it's just it makes me accessible, because I don't sleep much, and I think one of the things that sets me apart from some people is I'll get back to someone, they'll send me an email, call me, and I'm available. And I think that's really important. If people are available, sometimes it's really hard to get a hold of people, especially as they gain some notoriety. And so I'm available. I'm up, and I'm not going to be sleeping when someone calls. And I think that it certainly has helped me more than it's hurt me.
So if you want to get a hold of John, the best times to call you, between 6 and 8, and then is it 6 and 8 on the other side?
Call me anytime.
Yeah, but
Call me anytime.
The driving times are early, and what do you eat? You don't eat dinner at home. You can't, right?
It depends. I mean, my wife is really supportive, and she does a phenomenal job in making sure that, like most nights when I come home, there's like a wonderful meal prepared for me, and I just can't thank her enough for that. And she understands that. I mean, she's seen me kind of work from the bottom, and not that I'm at the top now, but I'm trying to improve, and I'm trying to get our team better. And so she understands what it's like, and wants to support me in any way that I can. And I think that's really important, that, you're surrounded by people that are encouraging you, and not saying, well, how come you're, not home as much as other people. And we're all just really excited about the growth and development, but we really want to make sure that it ends this year with a national qualifier, something the school hasn't had since 2007.
Yeah, I hope so. Man, it's crazy to hear you talk about the commute. I feel like most people, if they were describing that, it would just be complaining. And you see that as like as an asset. But I have to wonder, I mean, the commute, that's a lot of hours, and I don't know, time on the road sometimes offers a crazy story or two. You ever come across anything crazy in your commute, or any stories from the road that would be worth sharing?
I think one thing that is awesome about having a commute is that you get to really kind of find what you're interested in, whether it be a podcast or something on Sirius or whatever. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is just learning about people and their pathway to success. A lot of times we don't see it from the beginnings, and so I kind of try to find some leaders that I look up to, and I want to hear their story, because there's something that I'm not going to sell the farm as soon as I hear something new. I'm going to take a little bit from that and try to incorporate that into my coaching philosophy, even if it's not directly it could be from a musician. I mean, most of these musicians, when I'm listening to Sirius, they're playing in front of, at 2 a.m. when, in front of 15 people. And we've all done that. We've all been in a situation where we're doing these small little camps, and then all of a sudden it's getting bigger, and now it's, and then, you're creating this huge following. And that's something that I think that each and every coach, when they don't see the success, I was talking about it before, there's so many of these assistants that just give up on it, because just like these musicians who got close but never really were able to be a head coach because it's so tough. And so it's been, nice to be able to replicate, or at least listen to some of the things that people that I look up to.
Man, that's awesome. And so cool to hear your perspective. Very refreshing. We're about to the end of the line, but I want you to stay on for a second. We have, and I don't think we told you about this beforehand, so we're kind of springing this on you, but we have our next guest, Pat Lugo, who's going to come on, and we have a segment that we like to call the overlapping question, where we ask the guest who's about to leave, ask the first question to our guest who's coming on. So Coach Clark, we've got Pat Lugo here on the line, and so take your time. I know we didn't warn you, but whenever you're ready, if you have a question for Pat, go ahead and fire away.
Pat, first of all, congratulations on all your success. It was fun to follow your career, and I know your career is still going. So, again, congratulations on that. I'm just curious. I went to school at Ohio State. You completed at Iowa. If you have anything to share, I talked about looking up to Gable, but part of looking up to Gable is looking up to the Brands brothers. What it was like to be coached by them, because there's some. I'll tell you a real quick story is that when I went out to the Olympic Training Center before I was anybody, Tom Brands was the first person to help me every single time, and he probably didn't even know who I was. So maybe real quick, because I know my time's up here, but I just wanted to hear, what it's like to wrestle for them.
It's more of a feeling to wrestle for them, because a lot of people ask me that question. What's the difference between these coaches and other coaches? And I tell them, man, you just have to be there. You have to be there to get the full experience. When they talk to you before practice, during practice, and after, it's just a feeling that you have to be there. They're just so passionate about the sport and about what they're doing. It's really not a job to them. It's a way of living, and I think that helps you as an athlete. Like wrestling for them, it helps you fight for them. Because they fight for you every day. So if someone fights for you, it's easy for them. It's easy for you to fight for them. So I think it's just so passionate. I mean, you have to be there. It's hard to explain with words, but yeah,
Yep.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, someone fight for you. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Pat, do you have a question for John Clark before we let him go?
You say you wrestled at Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite match at Ohio State when you were wrestling?
That's a great question. Favorite match was we were at National Duels at home. We were actually hosting them. We beat Oklahoma. I beat Robbie Waller, who was a national champ, in the duel. And my roommate, Tommy Rollins, won in overtime, but we were still down by 5. Or going in the match, we were down by 5. He won in overtime, and the Oklahoma wrestler kind of gave up, some wrestlers do. And not only gave up 2, but ended up giving the fall, because he essentially just went to his back out of defeat. And he ended up pinning him, and we won by 1 to advance to the National Duels Finals. And my college coach tore his ACL in celebrating, because we basically stormed the match.
Hellickson? Or one of the
Sorry,
assistants?
that was a long story, but I had to kind of give all the details with it.
Was that Hellickson got hurt, or an assistant?
Yeah. This was an 02.
Yeah, I was there.
So it was
That's too funny.
Was that in a Unidome?
No, that was at St. John Arena.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
fantastic.
Mark Bader has an incredible memory.
I just did a couple things that not everybody can say that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, John. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. I love the story at the end. And any parting words before we let you get going?
Just thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate so much what you guys do. It's wonderful to see you guys rise. And again, Mark, you are the most likable person in wrestling. And thank you for everything that you do. And Mr. Bray, I appreciate everything, reaching out. It's awesome to be on the show. And Pat, best of luck. I know that you're going to do some amazing things, and I hope you make the Olympic team.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Have a
Thanks
good
a
one.
lot, John.
Yep. All right. Bye now.
All right. That was fun.
That was awesome.
Great guest. Sacred Heart. Making moves. But we're going to continue on with Pat Lugo. He recently wrestled in the 150 tournament. He's wrestling, boom, right back at it, January 9th against James Green. Pat, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Just, getting finish my routine for the morning, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Feel good.
Did that routine include Bluebird Diner?
Oh, it used to, man. It used to, but then now the whole team switched up. We don't really go there no more. Yeah. So like we go to a new place called Dandelion, and it's a lot better, I think. So it's good.
What?
Check it out. You ever been there?
No, I've been to. Probably 2012 or 13. Somebody from the team took me to Bluebird, and then every time I go, whether or not I go with somebody from the team or coach, or even if I just show up, there's wrestlers at Bluebird, like
Yeah.
hands down.
Yeah, it's not as always wrestlers at Dandelion, so you gotta check it out next time you come. Yeah.
All right. I'll make a note of that. Appreciate it. What do you get? Breakfast food, lunch food?
Salmon toast, add avocado.
There we go.
That's me.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. I'll check it out. I don't know the next time I'm coming to Iowa City, but I'm sure it'll be wrestling season. Okay, let's just kind of back up to the 150 tournament. You wrestled Bajrang. We all know he's really good. 3-time world medalist. And you haven't had a ton of experience at the senior level or internationally, so I don't know if you knew what to expect or knew where you stood or what your expectations were coming in that match, but how you perceived things he was going to feel you were going to do against him, etc., to how it went?
Like you said, I didn't really know what to expect because I never had that much experience with senior level and international stuff. But Tom and Terry and coaching staff here, I would say, gave me the spiel on it, and so I kind of had a feel, but yeah, you don't really know until you like actually wrestle a guy like that. But I mean, I think I felt like I was prepared for it mentally, physically, and I just have to work on things that that I wasn't that much experienced in, and that's pretty much it, man. Just going back to the drawing board, like just picking up on the little things, and it's not like big mistakes. It's like little mistakes, and the little mistakes mean the most, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, just little tuning here and there, man, and then I could have beat that guy for sure. I believe that 100%.
Yeah, it's like you said, you weren't exactly sure what to expect from my position. I didn't obviously know what to expect. I'm like, this could be close. I don't know. Could Bajrang blows doors off? I don't know. But I was, I guess, more impressed with your performance than I kind of thought it might go. Do you feel like? And you said a couple little positions I could have beat him. Did you think in your head maybe you were as close as you now believe you are?
I mean, going into the match, I like was confident 100%. I wasn't going in to like, oh, make it tight or just throw my hand in the ring. I was going in there to beat him. So like I knew I could beat him. Like I know, like it wasn't just like a thought, like, oh, maybe I can keep it close. No, like I was training to beat him, and that's what I was planning on doing, and it didn't work out. But like it's like I said, it's all good. But like little positions here and there, got to work on. But yeah, I mean, I know I could beat the best guys in the world because I feel like I am the best guy in the world right now, and and it's not really me being cocky. It's just like I'm just like confident, and I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about the second time I think you brought up these little positions, and there's a couple or a few little positions that if I can change whatever the outcome there, it'll impact the match. Like, how quickly are you aware of those little positions? Is it like during the match, right, when you kind of miss out on one, or is it right after the match, or is it an hour after the match, or the next day? Different people maybe want to hear these things or figure these things out at different times, and I'm curious what that is like for you.
Hello.
Yeah.
I got cut out there, I think.
That's all right.
Okay.
That's no problem. Okay. So I guess I was saying, of these little positions that you need to, improve upon to win, that'll make a big difference. When do you notice or realize it? Is it as soon as it happens? Is it right after the match? Is it an hour after? Is it the next day?
I think it might be all of them. It might be during the match. It might be after the match or the next day because, if you, I'll see the match differently if I watch film than if I'm wrestling in it. Of course,
Yeah.
if I'm wrestling in it, I might be able to get that ankle and pull in a certain way. But if I watch film, oh, maybe I could do this, do that. So it's all of them. It's during the match. I gotta when to adjust during the match, when to what to do like when I watch film and stuff like that. So it's pretty much all of them. I think so. Yeah.
Sure. And you're obviously going to be wrestling James Green on January 9th. He was second. Did you watch his matches or any of the matches after the tournament, or did you just like hang out or leave, or I don't know? Obviously, there's not a lot of space in that area,
Yeah.
as you know.
No, I stayed and watched. I stayed and watched the whole thing. So after my match was over, sat there and watched on the TV, and it's pretty much I was rooting for Green though. If it wasn't me being there, I would want Green to win that tournament.
Sure. And then I don't know how long it was after that tournament that it came up, maybe a week or so later, if I'm guessing. The idea came up to wrestle James. From my understanding, there was like no hesitation. It was like sometimes just a lot of negotiating, but it was just like you two both like, yeah, let's do it. Is that accurate on your end?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, why not? I wrestled for the guy who won the tournament, and I want the next best guy. But yeah, it was easy negotiating. We just agreed on the weight, boom, the money, boom, whatever, all the other extra stuff. We agreed on it quick, and I think we just both want to wrestle. Just want to get those matches in, and get ready for the next thing. I think, which is in April, trials.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something. So yeah, you mentioned that you stuck around and watched the rest of the tournament, and I noticed that because a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys, like, if they lose, they're frustrated, they're out of there. Sometimes you see them storm off or whatever. But it seemed like you were really studying what was happening, and you're watching these guys picking things up and whatever. Is that something that you've always done, and where does that kind of composure come from?
I mean, I think that's my personality. I think, I know how to take a loss. I know how to take a loss because, I've lost in the past. I think that, like, losing makes you a better person, a better man, all that. But, after the match, this is, like, really my first senior competition, like technically. And, I wanted to sponge it all up. I wanted to see what the best guys were doing. I want to see what can I do to beat them, their weaknesses and all this. And me leaving after my match is not going to help me. So I wanted to stay, pick up on things and stuff like that. So I think it was good. It was a good idea for me to stay. And plus, it helps me. It motivates me to train harder, like man, I should be there, So that's the things that like goes through my head, like I should be there, I could do this, I could do that, I know I can, and that's things I tell myself, and all that just builds my confidence, So it's really, and I get it, I get guys who leave and like they're pissed off, and because I've done that before, but it doesn't really help you, For me, it doesn't really help me, so I think it's better off to just stay and feel that pain inside of you, like damn, like I should have won that match,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any things specifically that you did pick up from watching the rest of the tournament?
The guy who scores first usually wins the match. That's the one probably thing I picked up on, and that's not only with that's like with matches in general. You know, I even picked up on that in college, and so like the guy who scores first, their chances of winning like shoot through the roof. So like that's pretty big.
You said too that you were hoping if you couldn't win the tournament, all right, I hope James Green wins. Is that something that you kind of felt before the tournament started, or was that as you were watching it go along, you kind of were pulling for him, or where did that feeling come from?
Yeah, I guess like once I lost, I was like probably rooting for him. I don't know. He seemed like he's humble with it. You know, he has a little kid. You know, so you know why not? You know, he's a cool dude. I don't really like ever hear bad about him or stuff like
Never.
that. So yeah. So yeah,
Nobody
so,
I can't think of once.
Exactly. So you know what I mean? You know, why not? You know. So
Yeah. And to the point of James, right? Like you signed, you guys are wrestling. Is there, you know, you think of a UFC fight, right? I'm fighting this guy down the line. All right, the next X amount of weeks, I'm focused on this guy and learning how to beat him, right? And what it's going to take to beat him specifically. Is there any of that element for this, or is it like you're just trying to get better holistically and James Green's going to be there on the 9th?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just like you said, like just trying to beat him. Yeah, I think, yeah, just trying to get a hold of James Green on the 9th. I think so. I mean, like I don't know, I don't really know how to answer that. I guess, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think James Green's good at?
He's good. He's fast. You know, he's really good at picking up you know, little things here and there, like just not just shooting one attack, making one attack and to turn it into another one. You know, chain wrestle stuff. So I think he's good at that, and also his lace is pretty good. But you know, just
Transition, yeah.
yeah, it's transition basically. But yeah, I mean, he's gotta be. I gotta be ready for that, and I think I will be ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that card is going to be a lot. I think hopefully you've seen it by now. There's been a ton of great matches announced. The headliner, obviously, Burroughs versus Taylor. Did you think this match was ever going to happen? You know, there was a lot of talk.
Burroughs and Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna happen. 'Cause, like, they're on Twitter talking to each other, man, beefing it up, and of course, man, everyone wants to see it. It's the money, like fight, like in UFC, like you mentioned. So like, yeah, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean, especially with like us not going to Worlds.
Yeah.
So like, it was like a for sure thing. You know, why not? You know, these guys been barking at each other for a good minute. So yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Is it unfair to ask you to make a prediction?
Man, I think Burroughs get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor wins because you know Taylor's younger and Burroughs is like kind of on his way out, but like you know he still got it, you know. So it's hard, but I guess you know whoever's ever there like more mentally, you know, is probably gonna win that match.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like you're like I think probably Jordan, but I could obviously if Dave wins, and I'm sure a lot of people feel like that, even given that Jordan's a little older and on the way out, right? And David's like, I could see either way. And it's almost crazy to think that.
Yeah, and then Burroughs, like, what are they like? Burroughs being like 3 times or 3-1 or something like that, or I don't know.
Never lost to David Taylor.
Never lost,
right?
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 times.
4 times. The first time they wrestled was under the old rules with you had to win the periods and the ball draws and everything.
Oh yeah.
David took 1 period.
Did he?
Didn't he take a period?
I don't think so.
No periods?
I so much for my great memory, John Clark.
I'm trying to remember that.
You can look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
All right. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but tomorrow on Flow we're coming out with a documentary on Dan Gable, which was actually made it aired in 1999. It kind of followed him through the 97 season and also tells the story of his life. But growing up in South Florida, I imagine it doesn't have the culture of wrestling that Iowa or even Edinburgh, Pennsylvania does. Maybe I'm wrong. But what was, when you were coming up in wrestling, what did you know about Dan Gable or hear? Or, this is probably, what is this, early 2000s, late 90s?
Hmm.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. I didn't really know much of him. Like, I didn't really get into like college wrestling, like looking into it, like the nationals until I was like a sophomore in high school. So I like seen pictures of him, but I never really asked, oh, who's that guy? Yeah, you know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, you hear of him like Gable. Like, I guess I never really asked like, well, who's Gable or what's Iowa? Like, what is that? Like where's that at?
Uh-huh.
So it didn't really like growing up. It didn't really. I wasn't really concerned about it. Maybe because I probably wasn't really into wrestling that much. Like I didn't really love to wrestle until like I was uh like a high school. I was in high school in like sophomore year. It's like around that time. So like after that time, like then I started getting into it. Then I started learning all the things, all this and that. So yeah. It was growing up. I wasn't really much into it.
Sure. I remember that too. Last time, this was a while ago, but I remember you telling me something about your sophomore
Oh,
year in a specific match. I can't remember if you won or you lost, but that's what like turned you like wrestling fanatic, right?
yeah, basically. I mean, I just lost the match I shouldn't have lost to, and yeah, and that's like I said in that interview, that's like in the past, like so like I got new motivation now, so it's good. I mean, I did other sports too. I did like I did soccer, I played football, but I think I was more meant to wrestle, especially with my body type and
Yeah.
stuff. So I ain't a football player or something like
No,
that. So
maybe a fullback, but you're pretty short, and I'm
yeah.
shorter.
Hmm.
Um, um. So I guess when did you know who Dan Gable is today, right? I'm sure, and pretty much you know his story
Yeah.
and what he's done. Did that slowly through high school and college? Did you learn that, or was it like, did you ever kind of sit down and talk with somebody or watch some kind? There's multiple documentaries on him.
Hmm. It kind of slowly went. I watched that documentary, the long documentary on Iowa with
Yep.
him, and I watched videos on YouTube, and there's little clips here and there, and then I picked up on it, and then I guess I fell in love with it. The way he was talking, the way he talked to his wrestlers, the way he just went about his life. So it's just you see that right there in Tom and Terry now, so that's like I start like that passion part. That's when it comes to play, and like I said, it's easy. It's like it makes wrestling fun because it's like it turns it into like kind of like a war. Like I'm gonna beat this guy, or it's like he's gonna take all my family, like take all my money, take like stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's the way I think. So yeah,
I like
but
that.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. With your time at Iowa, do you
Mhm.
have many interactions with Gable? I know he's not a coach, and I don't know if he even comes to the room. I know he comes to all the matches.
Yeah, he's there every once in a while inside the locker room. I talked to him a couple times. I can't remember. I can't remember the first time I talked to him. I think so. I think yeah, I do remember the first time I talked to him. Actually, it was after I lost to Ryan Deacon in the best of three at World Team Trials, Junior World Team Trials, I think it was, and Nebraska. And I go back to Iowa City, and he's there, and he's like, "Oh, you're the one who just got your ass whooped, right?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me." but but it wasn't something like, oh, he's picking on me or he's trying to make me like down. It's something like he's building me up. So that's how I took it, and then I'm pretty sure that's how he was talking to me too. To like build me up, to like motivate me, and it did. And I feel like that's how I operate. If you tell me that like, oh, I'm soft, or like I'm like just got whooped, then that's gonna motivate me. Then that's gonna motivate me more than like, oh, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. Like I don't really like the little soft little route, if that
You'll be
makes
all right,
sense.
guy. You'll be okay.
Yeah, like you'll be okay,
Your mom
little
loves
bro. Like,
you.
yeah, exactly. Like
Right.
if you tell me that, I'm like, man, get away from me, man. Yeah.
That's one thing I've obviously wasn't coached by him, but I hear a lot of people talk about. He just knew what to say, and some guys do need to be patted on the back and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
softer
Everyone's different.
approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess he was really good at knowing that. When did you know that you needed somebody to be a little harder and not so soft? Has it always been like that?
No, I mean, I think Tom is the one who really like showed me that, because growing in wrestling, you don't really know what's best for you, like what's gonna make you click. But I think like Tom has that, like same thing with Gable, like he knows what to say. He knows how to get you to click. He knows how to like push you and push you over the edge. And once you go over the edge, he knows how to like you're gonna fly if you fall off the edge. You're gonna fly, you're gonna fall down. So he knows how to like get you to fly, I guess. And yeah, I guess I feel like he a couple experiences, probably my first year here in Iowa. Uh, he talked to me about a couple things, and it got me to click, and it helped me for the future, definitely.
Can you remember any of the specific instances where he helped you fly, not fall off the edge?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when he talked to me. It was pretty hard, but it was good. Like I loved it. It was like after it was my last match. It was my All American match. No, the seventh and eighth match against Jared Deegan. Yeah, that one. I think it was my first year in Iowa, or after I redshirted or something like that. And yeah, he talked to me, and he told me what I need to hear, and everything he said was true. So, you know, it was good. I'm glad he said whatever he had to say, and yeah.
Was that like that morning before the match? That's Saturday. That's the last morning at Nationals, right? Saturday morning.
Yeah, it was like the last day of nationals, like right after match, right after the match too, and it was like minutes after the match. So yeah, I remember just sitting down and him talking to me. So yeah, it was good.
Nice, nice. And I guess I wanted to talk, and I mentioned like the wrestling culture. I don't know what it's like in Florida, but compare like Iowa City and Edinburgh and like South Florida wrestling cultures. What was it like growing up? And we have
Uh-huh.
some of an idea what it's like in Iowa City.
Yeah, I mean Iowa City is, wrestling coaches is through the roof.
Yep.
Edinburgh, the wrestling coach is there, but like I feel like it's a small town for it to be like really there, if that makes sense. But a lot of people know wrestling, a lot of people love wrestling there. But in Florida, Homestead, man, you could be a national champ. No one would be like, okay, like who cares? So like
Yeah.
it's completely different. Uh, but I think it's growing. Like the wrestling culture in Florida is growing for sure. A lot of people are knowing like what's going on. They don't really know how like the rules work and stuff like that, because wrestling can be different. I mean, difficult to learn if you like don't really know what's going on. Um, but yeah, it's growing, and it's pretty good. I mean, when I was growing up in high school, it wasn't there, but like now it's getting better, so that's good.
Sure.
You talk about Florida and growing up in high school in Florida. I remember kind of the first time hearing your name was Fargo as you were kind of making noise. I think both your junior and senior years. I mean, your senior year, I remember you were in the finals, but I was looking back. I think was it your junior year you wrestled Caleb Young in like a crazy match, right?
Yeah,
You guys
I
ever
still
talk
remember
about that
it.
one?
Yeah, I always bring it up. I always bring it up. Man, it's funny. It's so funny. That's actually the first time I wrestled him, and I think it was, I want to say my sophomore year yeah, I think my sophomore year, because I always say like let's pull up. We'd be hanging out, just like here hanging out in my living room or someone else's living room, and then boom, I just put it on TV or some screen put it on the TV, and out of nowhere, man, it's pretty funny. But and he just like rolls his eyes and that's like whatever, man, whatever. And but that's that's just us being us, just messing with each other.
It was a
Yeah.
crazy match, right? You were trailing with like 30 seconds left, and you got like a 3-point move to take the lead. How did it go?
I think I can't remember. I think it was close. It was close towards the end. I think it was like tied up. He was ended up winning on criteria, and I think I took a shot, and then I came up and I like kind of exposed him a little bit, and I ended up getting 2 or 3 or 4. I don't remember how the rules were set at the time either. But he talks about it, man. I didn't even expose. He like says all that stuff. So, but yeah, but it's funny because his hair. If you see his hair in that video, is like
Yeah,
it's like yeah, it's everywhere. And I tell him, man, you gotta get the hair back. You gotta get the hair back now. You'll be better. You'll be stronger and faster and stuff. And he just rolls his eyes and starts laughing again. It's pretty funny.
I'm all about I think you should grow the hair out. I'm all for growing
Yeah,
the hair out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I was thinking about too is like you've wrestled in Carver, right? And I'm sure you had in some electric atmospheres, and you've wrestled like on the roof, which was a lot less. And in the tournament, there like no fans, right? And there's gonna be no fans again on January 9th. Is that something that you even notice or feel, or is it just like you're so into wrestling that it's the same?
I think it's the same for me. I mean, it's hard because if you wrestle in Carver, you can feel it, man. You can feel it. You can feel the energy. You can feel all that. And when I wrestled on the rooftop in Chicago, it was more quiet. It was like, I don't know. You can hear the guy breathe, the guy you wrestling, and I think that's good because you could pick up on how tired he is. So I mean, I guess that's an advantage. So like when you're in a loud arena like Carver or Nationals or something, you might not be able to pick up on that. Hearing the guy breathe or something like that, breathing hard. But I mean, I try to block it out, the fans and stuff like that, because if I'm just focused on the guy in front of me, the outcome will be better of the match, and I'll feel better, stuff like that. But it's hard, like you have to practice it. You can't just be like, oh, like the fans, like I could block them out easy. I think you just over time you get better with it. I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And that brings me to a little segment we like to call wins and whoopings. And I'm curious, like from the time you started wrestling till this last match, I guess, against Bajrang, is there like a most memorable? It can be your favorite, it can be your best, or it can be just most memorable for whatever reason. A win and a memorable loss, or even a whooping where it really went the wrong way.
Win probably Big Ten.
Yeah.
Big Ten. I won Big Ten's most favorite win. Loss. I don't know. I actually talked about this yesterday. I wrestled with Spencer Lee a long time ago, and he whooped me. It was like, and he just got on top and freaking turned my elbows, turned my everything. So that's the only thing I could think of right now.
Yeah. It was like arm bars.
Oh my god, yeah. Everything he does now, he did it when he was 6 or 7 years old. So yeah.
That's when you guys wrestled? You were 6 or 7?
I was a long time ago. I don't know. It was probably a little bit older than that, probably like 10.
10 or something.
But it was in, I think, Dixie Nationals in Georgia. That's a long time ago.
Let me guess, he won the bracket.
Yeah, he won. Yeah.
Surprise. Awesome, man. Cool. Well, we're just about to the end of the line. I don't know. Do you have any parting words? Anything you'd like to say before we get out of here and let you move on with your day?
Nah, man, I'm good. I mean, just thank you guys for giving me the opportunity for the wrestling and that tournament last couple weeks and this opportunity coming up. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. We're stoked to see you. You'll be thrown down against James Green on January 9th. Pat, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you. See you.
All right. Thank you. Adios. All right. And there you have it. Another show in the books. Pat Lugo and John Clark. Couple really fun guests. Clark had some great stories.
Yeah, man. I feel like I learned a lot and got a lot of really great perspective, and two guys with like different mindsets, but both are like, fire me up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to do it. I guess we're gonna have a good show tomorrow. We're gonna have Adeline Gray followed by Tamira Menserstock.
Ooh,
Maybe have them overlap.
I can't wait for that overlapping question.
Yeah. So I haven't even let them know about it. That actually the other one's the other guest. So I'll hit them up right after this. Hopefully they're not watching yet, or hopefully they are. All right, that's it. We're rambling. For David Bray, I'm Mark Bader. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.